Hello, today we're in our Unit 7, Lesson 2 notes. We are converting, all right, so we're going to convert between percents, decimals, and fractions. Let me get my laser pointer, if it'll let me. Maybe, let me move these controls. Oh God, why is this whole screen yellow? Why is this whole screen like this right now? Okay, laser pointer. Okay, take 2. All right, today we are in Unit 7, Lesson 2, converting. So what does it mean to convert? Convert means that we are going to change form. So we'll be changing between percent, decimal, and fraction. So depending on what form you have, you'll follow the arrow to the other form and you'll do what's in that arrow. Right? So if I have my percent, I will divide it by 100 to get the decimal. If I have my decimal, I'll use place value, like this one's in the hundredths place, so I put it over 100, and then I'll simplify to get my fraction. If I have the fraction, I'll divide the numerator, the top, by the denominator, the bottom, then multiply by 100 to get my percent. I can also go the other way. So if I know my percent, I can put it over 100 and then simplify to get my fraction. If I know my fraction, I can just divide the numerator and the denominator to get my decimal. The top divided by the bottom. Right? If I know my decimal, I multiply by 100 and I get to my percent. So percent and decimal work really nicely together. Percent you can think of as a rate per 100, right? Well, decimal you can think of as a rate per 1. So really, we're scaling between those. So if I have a decimal, which is a rate per 1, I can multiply by 100 to get percent, my rate per 100. But if I have percent, my rate per 100, and I want decimal, I divide. So you're scaling up and down with 100 there. They're both special rates. But let's take a look at some examples. So usually you will see tables like this. We've got fraction, decimal, and percent, and we'll use the notes we just took to convert between these. So we're going to start here with 28%. I need percent going to decimal. So this arrow tells me percent divided by 100. So I'm going to take 28 divided by 100. Go ahead and pause here to put it in your calculator. So as we go through this example, pause to put it in your calculator and then check and see if you got the same thing. Pause to write it down and then continue with the example. All right? So here, when you put this in your calculator, you should be getting 0.28. Now we need percent to fraction. So percent to fraction, we're going to put that percent over 100, then simplify. So I'm going to start with 28 over 100. Now you can put this in your Desmos scientific calculator to simplify it. I also know the greatest common factor of 28 and 100 is 4. If I divide the top and bottom by 4, you should be getting 7/25. All right, let's try the next example. We've got 3/5. We have a fraction. We need the decimal. So fraction to decimal, if we look at this arrow, numerator divided by denominator. Top divided by bottom. So I'm going to take my numerator, 3, and divide by the denominator, 5. So you got 3 divided by 5. You could pause to put this in your calculator. Then you should get 0.6. Now we need the percent. But if you notice, when we do fraction to percent, we take numerator divided by denominator. That's what we just did. Then we multiply by 100. So I'm going to use what we just did instead of redoing all those steps. So I'm going to take my, oh, that's a mistake. That should say 0.6. I'm going to take my 0.6, not 0.2, and multiply by 100. And we should get 60%. Uh-oh, I got to change that one. This should say 0.6, not 0.2. That was a typo. Oh, that looks bad. That looks really bad. Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm going to cover it up with yellow. There we go. Shouldn't be there. And then that should be 0.6. There we go. I had a typo, right? Everybody makes mistakes. So 60% right there. Right, so I'm using this decimal right here, 0.6, and multiplying by 100. Get my 60%. Next up, we've got this decimal, 0.624. And we're going to go to fraction form. So I'm going to use place value. So we've got the tenths, hundredths, then thousandths. So that tells me I'm going to put it over 1,000. So we've got 624 over 1,000. Now you can put this in your calculator to simplify. I happen to know that the greatest common factor is 8. And I also happen to know that if you divide the top and bottom by 8, you get 78 over 125. All right, now we're going to go from decimal to percent. So we're going to take our decimal and we're going to multiply by 100 to get our percent. All right, so I've got 0.624 or 624 thousandths times 100. You can put that in your calculator. You get 62.4%. It's okay for a percent to have a decimal. That's totally allowed. All right, so make sure you follow the correct arrow when you're doing your conversions. Good work.